going to show you how to machine this Royal Game of Ur. If I'm critical of my first rendition of this, I can see that some of the letters have some split out. I'm not real happy the veneer split. I don't think anybody would notice but the person who actually machined it, unless you're like trying to judge it. But I think we can do better, and the way we're going to do better is we're going to put a piece of blue painter's tape across before we CNC that design into that fine lettering. The second thing I need to tell you about is I can no longer recommend the blue painter's tape over the vacuum channel. When I was doing my second prototype of this, it made it 2/3 of the way through. It was just cutting this rosette, and then I found that the painter's tape came up and I started to lose my vacuum and it dug into my board. It didn't throw my board anywhere because I'm going slow with a V-bed and I have a shallow pass, but it ruined this board. You really need to go with something stronger, and so I went back on my channel to clear packing tape. It's got a much stronger adhesion, and you could even put another piece on here, or I would recommend just epoxying down a piece of plexiglass right over the top so you know that it's never going to give on that, because that's where the failure took place, is right here. It started to pull up on the edge, it broke the vacuum, and we were back to square one. So I did like the painter's tape going over the edge of the board though. So I still took a piece of painter's tape when I machined this and put it over the edge of the backboard. And I also put it for the lettering so we don't split it out. And I'll just jump to the chase. You can see that the lettering came out much, much nicer. It took 5 minutes and 9 seconds to machine this, including the lettering. You can have a 5-minute game board. And then for your pieces, you just need some square blocks. You can cut them yourselves. These are little craft blocks. You can get like 100 of them for $3. And you just need to take one dot on each of the three sides, and the other sides leave blank. And there you can have an easy set of die. If you want to get fancy, you can go ahead and drill and put a different color dowel in here. It's nice if each player can have their own set of dice. So if you can do 8 of these, that's great.
I'm gonna show you how to do your design for the Royal Game of Ur, a game that goes back several thousand years, and it's super fun to play. It's easy to make with your CNC. It's a perfect test of your vacuum table, but you don't need a vacuum table. You can fix the board down your normal way. And in particular, I'm using 3mm thick veneered plywood. On Amazon, they sell a 10-pack of these for about $30. When you actually measure the boards that you get, you're going to find that they're less than 12 inches by 12 inches. When I measured it out in metric, it was 300mm by 300mm. I'm going to do this design in millimeters, but you can certainly do it in imperial. You'll see the method, and it's easy to adapt. For just cosmetic purposes, I'm going to adjust the material setting, and I'm going to set it to cherry down here in the bottom because it looks better. For the video purpose, even though we're actually using a walnut veneer, I have the datum in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm zeroing off the top. I'm going to click OK. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the top of your Vcarve software, whether that's a Desktop, Pro, or Aspire, and you want to turn on grid snapping. You want to hit the F4 button, and that will turn on your snapping options. If you don't yet have snap to grid on, you want to put that on. And then the grid spacing, what I would recommend is whatever width the board you're going to make your board game, then go ahead and divide by 10 to set up your grid spacing. Since mine was 300mm wide, I used a spacing of 30mm. And then I went down here to the snapping radius, and I drug this slider all the way to the across to the far right. I'll make it easier when you're clicking on this to set up your polylines. If you do that, click OK. We're going to go over to the Create Vector tool. We're going to go down 2 icons, and we're going to click on Draw Polyline tool. Then I'm going to hover down, and you're going to see whenever I get near one of these dots, it will like latch onto it. And we're going to set up our game board from the bottom left-hand corner down here. I'm going to trace a profile of what the Royal Game of Ur looks like. And when we get all done, we'll drag that whole game board out in the middle of our board, and we'll set up our machine paths. So very quickly, I'm going to left click on this bottom dot. I'm going to go up to, now just in case along the way you get off and you mess up one of your dots, let's say I like way was off, all you have to do is go to the left-hand side under the Create Polyline tool and hit the undo, and we'll back you up. So follow along. I'm just left clicking every time I hit one of these dots. So I'm going to go up 2, left click, right 1, left click, up 2, left click, over 1, left click, up 4, left click, over 3 to the right, left click, down 4, left 1, down 2, right 1, down 2, left 3. And you can see it terminated. There's my outline of my game board. Now I need to grid this off, and we're going to try to make it so our machine flows smoothly through these points. So we're going to trace our pattern through with our polyline that way. So since we finished this vector this way, we're going to start right here. I'm going to left click I'm going to go here, and now you're in a predicament. Like, how do you like stop this without going back to the original point? Hit the space bar. So I finished here, and I'm going to go left click, space bar, 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 left click. I'm going to go right through these other lines. Don't worry about that. Left click, space bar, left click, space bar. Congratulations, you just made the grid for your game board. I'm going to hit close. Now I'm going to go put special rosettes here, 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 here. The easiest way to do that is to use our star tool. You can pick however many points of star you want. I'm going to choose an 8-pointed star. Here's the parameters that I'm using, but you could just as easily drag over the top here, and you can scale it individually. But let's go ahead and just go out here, hover over the middle, and click. And when I do, I've got our first star. And now I'm going to go over to the under edit objects. I'm doing the selection mode. I'm going to click on this, double click so that it's selected, and just look at my alignment, and it looks like it came out perfect. If it wasn't perfect, I could hold down the control button, and with that held down, I could use my arrow keys to micro adjust this. As it is, I don't think I can get any better than that, so I'm going to have this in selection mode. I'm going to hold down my control button. I'm going to grab that center, and I'm with the control button continued held down. I'm going to drag this over to here, and I'm going to let up of my mouse and my control button. Now I'm going to hit my control button again. I'm going to left click with my mouse, hold my mouse button and my control button down, and I'm going to drag right here. Letting up on both my mouse and my control button. I'm going to push down on my control button again. I'm going to left click, and I'm going to drag right here. And then finally letting up on both, pushing down on my control button, hovering over that center point, holding down my left mouse button. I'm going to drag, and I'm right here. And then I'm going to left click to get out of it. That looks pretty good. Now let's just check our alignment really fast. So I'm going to go up to here, and I'm just going to click on it. And you can see that if you zoom in, I didn't do as good a job of aligning this as I did right here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to hold down the control button. I'm going to use my arrow buttons, and I'm going to try to get this visually centered. And we're going to do the same thing here. That one looks really good. This one is off, so I'm going to hold down my control button, and I'm going to use my arrow buttons, and I'm going to realign that. This one's way off, so I'm going to hold down my control button, and I'm going to realign that. You've got your game board. It's ready to go, so I'm going to grab all that by holding down my left mouse button with the selection tool. I'm going to click on the center. I'm going to grab that center point, and we're going to drag it until it clicks to the center of our board, and then I'm going to just like shift this down just a little bit. I'm not trying to make it perfectly centered because I'm going to put some text here at the top, but let's go ahead and set up our toolpath for this as is. So I'm going to go over to my toolpath selection. I'm going to just click on the thumbnail so it doesn't slide off when I'm shooting my video. I'm going to select all those vectors in one fell swoop. I'm going to go to my profile toolpath. I want my depth of cut to be just 0.7 millimeters thick. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit. I'm choosing to cut this at 75 inches per minute. It's pretty shallow, so I think I'm going to be fine with that. I'm not going to worry about doing a separate last pass. If you want to do that, you can certainly do that. And down here at the bottom, we'll just call this game board V-bit 60, depth of cut 0.7 millimeters. Calculate. Let's go ahead and let's preview this. So I'm going to reset my preview. I'm going to rotate this up ever so slightly so we can kind of see the bit going along here, and you can see what we've done by the way we set up those vectors. And I'm going to slow down the speed slightly so you can see it a little easier. And we're going to preview the visible toolpath. So here we go. It's going around with our 60-degree V-bit, and look at the path that it followed. Very, very nice, very efficient. Let's see how long the projected machine time is. 3 minutes and 23 seconds, and you've got your game board etched into your walnut veneer. Awesome. Now, let's make this a little fancier. Since we have a CNC, we can do text super easy. And let's turn this toolpath off, and let's go just put a box. I think that's the easiest where we want our text. So I'm just going to drag a box out here like so. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to select our box here, and now I'm going to select that box, and I'm going to do my draw text. I want to go to the single line font, go down to Victoria 2L. I think that one looks really nice. You can do whatever font you so desire, but the single line, it works really well if you're just going to trace line on with your VBet, which makes it really fast and it looks very clean. And I'm going to call this the Royal Game of which is the official name of this game. I'm going to hit close. I'm going to go to my profile toolpath. I'm going to change the depth. Instead of doing 0.7, I'm going to do 0.25 millimeters. I'm going to keep the same V-bit that we had before. And I'm going to change what we're going to call this. I'll just call it game title. V-bit 60, depth of cut 0.25 millimeters. And we're going to calculate it. Let's get both of these previewed. Reset preview, preview visible toolpaths. And you can see that this works rather nicely. Doesn't show up really great on the computer screen, but it's going to show up nicely in your board. You can always save the text as a separate file, and then if you don't feel like it's cut deep enough, then you can re-zero your z-axis down just a little bit below the normal 0 point and recut that slightly deeper, or even resave it as a deeper toolpath and only machine that. But we're using the same bit, so let's see how long the projected time to machine. 5 minutes and 46 seconds. You will have cut this out. It's probably faster than that because you'll see the scale factor is 2. Literally, you can batch these out really, really, really fast, particularly if you have a vacuum table. So let's go save our toolpaths. So I'm going to go over to my toolpaths. There's no point, since I'm using the same bit, to not save them in the same file. And I'm going to click on Save Toolpaths and save them and go run them on my CNC. And I would recommend that you also save your game title text as a separate one as well, just in case you want to cut it deeper later on. So while you're doing that, you might want to do that. And let's go machine this and see what it looks like. But don't forget to save your file. So make sure you save your file so that you don't have to regenerate.
Looks super good.